I originally thought I was going to be up here by myself, and look, I have lots of cool people that are here to talk to you today. Let me give you a quick introduction, and then I want these guys to be able to tell you who they are and what they do and why they're here. How many of you are unfamiliar with what the It Gets Better project is about in general? Anybody? Anybody? Wow, okay. Dan Savage, who is a columnist, he has a gay love and advice column, created this project in September of 2010 as a reaction to a string of suicides of LGBT youth, or youth that were perceived to be gay, which is an important point. Some of the kids that were being called gay necessarily weren't, but a string of kids who took their lives at the urging of bad behavior of other people. This man, Dan Savage, decided to create a series of videos on YouTube from adults who were on the other side of bullying, who had made it through and whose lives were better. And it was just a message of hope to tell kids it gets better. And many, many famous people jumped on board. Probably most notably and most important, the President of the United States jumped on board, which is not since Kennedy have we had a president jump on a social issue quite so strongly. And a lot of things happened, and most of you have probably seen, or if you haven't, definitely go look at some of the videos. They're really inspirational. Pixar did one, several big sports teams have done them. Apple Computers has one that makes me almost cry every time I see it. The president's one is very president-y. It's not very, 3 cheers for him doing it, but it's very president-y. But the page outgrew its YouTube constraints, and it had to be moved and migrated to its own server. And in March of that year, so from September to March, both the president and Michelle Obama hosted a summit on bullying and education at the White House, which is a very, very big deal. That this bullying thing finally took on a life of its own. In September of 2011, a book was published of the It Gets Better project and people's stories. And so that's really how this started. I want to be real clear that this panel and us doing this panel is not necessarily limited to gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, anybody specific. Bullying happens to everybody, and this is anime fandom. There's probably 90% of anime fans have either witnessed bullying or were a victim of bullying. And that's kind of why I want to bring this to anime conventions and do a little bit of talking. Most importantly, and in the spirit of the project, I want to introduce you to some people, or let them introduce themselves to you, and let you know why they're here and why they think it's important to talk to you about such a subject. So, to my left, this distinguished and very well-dressed gentleman is Crispin Freeman, and I'll let him introduce.
I'm sorry, did you want me to talk now?
Yeah!
Okay, I'll talk to you. I wasn't sure what you were saying. Yes, I'm definitely here. I'm definitely here, and I'm proud to be here. When I was asked by the convention, they said, Greg is holding this panel, do you want to attend? I said, wild horses couldn't keep me away. Because this is an issue that's very important to me as well. When I was growing up, I was a victim of bullying because of a perception of what my gender status might be. Didn't matter what it actually was, it just mattered what people thought about me. And I took a lot of crap about it in high school. And it's ridiculous. And one of the reasons that I enjoy anime so much is because it seems to have so much more freedom for gender flexibility in the storytelling. That's part of the appeal to it. And so it hurts me when I hear about people criticizing other people because of their gender identity or their sexuality in an environment where the whole idea is we're all different. And isn't that awesome? Isn't that awesome that we all have differences? And so, it's funny because I do not identify myself as gay. I'm pretty much a straight man. But I'm not a terribly macho straight man, right? And I got a lot of flack for that, and it just got tiresome to me. So gender issues and being able to explore one's gender and to be able to explore these different things is very important to me. And you kind of go, we're all nerds about something. Why are we beating up on each other? This doesn't make any sense. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm grateful that Greg allowed me to come join him for this.
We have a reluctant panelist who will introduce themselves in a minute. And to my right.
To your right. Here. Oh, that's another one. I'm gonna stick with this and justify you. Let's see. I'm Chris Barlick. I'm founder of the Geek Comedy Tour. They kind of shot an email, kind of like, well, the geeks must have experienced horrific bullying, and I was trying to shoot back stories of how I was awesomely cool in high school, and they didn't believe a freaking word of it. So, yeah, let's see. What Crispin said, I can definitely identify with. It's kind of like you have bullying in all forms, and of course, back in high school, I went to a school that had just gone like co-ed like 4 or 5 years before, and the entire building was made of testosterone. And I was praying for puberty to finish on any level. I would, like, I was lighting a candle by the window. Please, Lord, give me 4 chest hairs. I'll name them after the ghosts in Pac-Man. To this day, I have named them after the ghosts in Pac-Man. But yes, it is. Like, this is definitely awesome, and I think the thing I've always enjoyed the most about anime cons is the fact that the freaks and geeks and people who, you know, have been told that they're freaks and geeks and they're honestly not, get together and have something that they love and enjoy in common. And it's always been an amazing thing, and I've always loved coming to it and will always enjoy going to it. Here you go.
Hi, I'm Emily Ruskowski. I am here with the Geek Comedy Tour as well. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. I don't even know what this is. I got bullied an incredible amount growing up, mostly related to my weight. And it stuck with me for a really, really long time, which I think it always does. I think long after your bullies are gone, the words they said to you and the way they made you feel about yourself sort of sticks around for a long time. And one of the things KatsuCon is the only convention I've ever gone to. I was here last year with Geek Comedy Tour, and this year, and I'm not like a video game person, I just was like, Chris, I'm the worst person to be, and I just loved it so much. Like, I came here and I loved seeing everybody just, you know, accepting themselves for who they are and dressing however they want and looking however they want. I just love that you don't have to fit into some mold and you can just be whoever you are, and I think it's such a great thing to get to do that, because I never sort of felt okay, and I was always sort of told, like, the way you look is not good enough, and you better always remember that, and you're a certain way because of that. So I feel really, really strongly about like anti-bullying movements, because I think as my day job, I'm a social worker, so I feel very like, I feel like the impacts of bullying, I feel like people used to say, well, it happens and you get through it and you get by it, but I wonder if we ever really do get by it, and I wonder if, I think we all sort of deal with the residual effects for a really long time. So
sadly, to some people and a growing number of people, they had to deal with residual effects of school bullying. So much so, they have suffered from major depression, suicide, agoraphobia, homeboundness, and in some cases, complete abandonment of education.
That's absolutely right.
You'll be hearing me talk all about that in just a second.
Yeah, we're gonna cover all that stuff. That's absolutely right. I think it's so much more than what happens in the hallways or what happens on the internet, and what you sort of what sticks to you. I think from all that really has major effects. So we'll get into all that stuff, but that's it for me right now. So thank you for having me here. I'm really excited to be here.
And I am so excited that this next person is joining us, not because I beat myself up with a microphone. Not only is the person at the end of the table one of my best friends, but is 13-year KatsuCon staffer. One of also the DJs that I dragged all over the country, because I think she's one of the most phenomenal DJs that I work with. But somebody that brings a very important perspective to this panel. So, Kid Omega.
My name's Andy Owancio. I'm the head of the dance department here. But I also am transgendered, and that's been like a long, like, winding road of finding myself and dealing with stubble that I don't want. I'd rather just have like air on my eyelids so I could get 5 o'clock eyeshadow instead. Smoky look. I had to throw a joke in there. But I'm transgendered, and that's a whole winding road. But I was picked on for being picked on for being different throughout school, and went to Catholic school, so of course got picked on a lot. But even going into conventions and stuff, it's very important that we have so many cross sections of fans and stuff, and like so many like perceptions of what these cliques, these individualized cliques, and how we like really affect each other when we're in a space that we're all here together, even if like we love one series or we've been loving anime longer than other people, and like it's just an understanding like that's another thing that's important, is how we affect each other in these spaces and stuff. So yeah, that's really about it.
Okay, my name is Greg Ayres. I lived the first half of my life being bullied every day, which is funny because I'm also known for having this great hockey temper now. It's partly to do with why. I luckily didn't learn to ball my fist up and knock somebody into another room until I was much older. Because sadly, when a kid's bullied, it just matters in their own hands. Many times they are the person that is punished, never the rotten kid that has been flicking.
And that is routine because schools don't want to do anything about it.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk. Just a sec. We're gonna get to that. I was beat up in school so much that I was the youngest person at the time in Texas to drop out of school. This is hard for some people to believe, but my last successful grade completed in the public education system was, I think somebody on the panel earlier goes, I went to the 7th grade. Last successful grade completed. Now I went on to study and go to college and get a degree, but bullying is education, and I'm somebody that loves learning. Bullies cost me many things, and probably because and since I was about 16, unapologetically gay, the first person to defend someone that is being messed with. But why I feel it's so important to do this panel is I wanted to die or never wake up most of my teenage years. I look forward to every single day of my life now. I never know what kind of trouble the day will lead me into and what redonkulous story I will have to tell later. I'm gonna do an uncensored panel tonight that I'm already just like, whoa, I don't know what I'm gonna do there. But I live my life now for every new experience and every day, and it is such... when you said the things that happened to you as a kid live with you for a very long time, they do. But I'm a person that has gotten far in my life with spite. Spite fuels many things in my life, and now I have a great time just so that those losers that made me miserable, as they try to friend me on Facebook, have to try to figure out if I'm in some weird Daft Punk type of band, because every picture they see of me, I'm on stage going...
Craig is now starting up a Powered by Spite wellness program.
Yeah, it's wellness through hate. No, but it is a really important thing to note that when you're in the middle of being bullied and having your life destroyed by really small people, that it is such a temporary moment in your life, and you can't see that as a child. Being in junior high school is just yesterday for me, it feels like, but now weekends are a blur. I'm kidding, I'm teasing, I'm totally teasing. But that was so quickly gone, and now we get to see people, we work with people whose work we respect, we get to meet people that make us laugh. I work with musicians, nerdcore performers, and now our lives are very, very full, and so it's very important that we are able to stand up and say, look, this bad part of your life will be over soon, and offer advice and words to people that probably are not having such a great go of it right now. I do want to say one other thing, and I promise I'm going to let everybody else talk too. One of the reasons I've been fighting to bring this panel to anime conventions is not only has a large cross-section of our community lived the same lives we have, most bullied for different reasons, whether it's body issue, whether it's gender identity, whether it's perceived sexuality or real sexuality or whatever. Sometimes people just get picked on because they like anime or because they're the video game nerd or whatever, which nerd is the new black, if you don't know. It's the new chic. Like, otherwise they wouldn't have the nerd girl calendar now. But not only is that who we're made up of, but this community has long been a safe haven for most of us from all of that. When we come to conventions, we don't expect people to bully us. We don't expect people to judge us. This is a place where, even if every day of our lives at school we're miserable, we put on a costume and we're Kenshin. We're a brave warrior for the weekend. And sadly, there has been a visible increase of bullying even within our own fandom. And so that's why it's really important for all of us to be able to talk about how this happens and why we can't stand for it. I'll let some other people talk about perceptions of bullying and whatnot. I've got some cool news about a convention that's doing some really anti-bullying initiatives, but I can't wait to hear you talk more. I had no idea that this one is a social worker. That's the coolest thing in the world. But Crispin, I know, it's cool, Yeah, it's always cool to find out what somebody else, like what other jobs people do.
Yeah.
But
comedy pays mostly in mozzarella sticks.
it does, and drinks, the drink tab, yeah. Food and drinks, yeah. Same with music.
Yeah.
So Crispin, is there something specific you want to talk about? I want to turn everybody over and let them talk about different things, but
I think what I'd probably like to say is that those out there who are doing the ridiculing, who are doing the bullying, who are insulting or whatnot, they feel helpless in a certain way. They would not be lashing out at you for being different if they didn't feel helpless in some way.
Because they are insecure.
Yes, that is true. When you realize that they're doing this because of their own insecurities or their own feelings of helplessness, in a way that can help a little bit realize that, oh, it's not me. It's not about me. It's about them. They're the ones who are freaking out. If you were in the voice acting panel, I talked about how my hero was Gene Kelly because I wanted to be an actor, singer, dancer. I was the only guy in dance doing ballet and modern dance in high school. I got lead press-on nails taped to my locker. I had people calling me gay all the time. It was ridiculous. And it didn't matter what I actually was. I think from that point on, it became very important to me because I wanted the freedom to explore who I was. I think what Greg said about the idea about us all being different, one of us said, the idea that we're all different, and the ability to self-define oneself. The ability not to have to abide by social norms, because I never fit into them. I was not the macho kid. I was the elf dancing around with a bow and arrow. I watched Lord of the Rings and said, Legolas, that's me,
whereas I said, Legolas.
I believe Sir Ian McKellen was asked on Twitter who he would rather spend the evening with, Aragorn or Legolas. And he said, I'd spend the evening with Aragorn, but the night with Legolas. So, and people sort of knew this about me in high school. Like, you did not bring up any sort of homophobia around me, or I would go jump down your throat about it, because it just seemed so ridiculous. And I had fun, actually, most of when I was growing up through high school and college, trying to be as subversive as possible about gender roles. I taught archery at a camp. I had the biggest, most Rambo-looking bow, and I had a ponytail, and like I would wear the most flamboyant clothes, and I was like, "You want to fire this? Come with me," you know? And no one could pull back this bow at camp except me. So like here I am, this scrawny little kid, but I'm the only one who could pull back this massive Rambo bow, and all the big sort of macho guys are like hurting themselves, straining their milk, trying to pull this thing back. So and I remember like the kids at camp would say, "Oh, that's so gay," and I was like, "I'm sorry, that's so homosexual? So are you using that as an epithet? That's an insult now? That's inappropriate." They're like, "Why are you so touchy? Why are you being so insulting?" It was sort of amazing to me, even, and maybe I saw it sometimes on a little more on the wrong ragged edge, because after a while they said, "Oh, he's straight, you know, everything's fine, so I can be homophobic around him, and that's cool." No, no, that's not cool. So that's I would say you can define yourself. You don't have to abide by the rules or the norms that other people try to force on you. I haven't. And there are people who will love it, who will appreciate it. And those who criticize will not give that freedom to themselves. And so that's and so if you can try to feel, you can just look at them and go, "I'm sorry." You know? "I'm sorry you're not courageous enough to be yourself. That you feel the need to criticize me for being myself. Your problem, not mine."
That's very long. I'm going down the line. You're right.
I think the thing that is sort of contradictory and you have to kind of sit back and laugh at is the fact that as Americans, we say, if you can define yourself, then that's awesome. I mean, hell, look at the most macho freaking thing in the world, professional wrestling. And like when I was coming up, I'm 35, and I think there's like a portrait of me that's aging somewhere. And like basically, yeah, Dorian Gray joke. No, like, but basically like back in the 80s and early 90s, you had like sort of the most flamboyant wrestlers in the world, and it's like, "I'm gonna throw a snake at you," and it's like, "Yeah, he's awesome," or "I'm gonna roll you up in this body bag after I win," and it's kind of like, yeah, that's self-definition right there, you know, and people go absolutely apeshit for that, you know, you have like monster truck crowds show up for that, as long as there's pyrotechnics, and I think he's absolutely right. I have no idea where to go from this.
Oh, yeah.
You have a point, because I don't. Okay.
Now, you spoke about something that's really important, is that people using the word gay just as a descriptor as at all. I know, and it's so bad, but people, like, when you have friends who are using the word, and this is another one that's using the word retarded, or using the word gay. Now, when you don't say something, you're basically giving that person a pass. There's a comedian who came out, Todd Glass, and he spoke about coming out, and what he said was hearing all this language and just letting it idly go by. And then there's different ways to do it, but to confront people, you kind of make it an after-school special, and you kind of like turn them off to the idea, and they're ready to dismiss it just because of your thing. But making it like stopping them, and just like when somebody says like, "Oh, that pitcher's gay," it's like, well, can you see it rubbing up against other pitchers? How can you tell? It's like, those shoes are gay. I'm like, well, dude, how can you tell? I mean, they take it from behind, but that's where the hole is. But it's just like that. It's just like subtly just quietly saying to somebody like, how can you tell? Like, it's funny because there's no defense to it, and they kind of, eventually your friends get the message that like, this kind of language is, but you can say it and make it funny and just make it a point without having to like turn off the other person, and you slowly prove your point without being abrasive, because that's what people are not ready for, is for you to be understanding and show kind of a little bit of compassion, that you're, just because somebody slips up, you can, inform them and do it in a very positive way.
I want to say something about that, specifically the word retarded, because people our modern lexicon of slang changes from time to time, and we did this in a city, and someone talked about something being, I think I said spaz about something, and then somebody else said something was retarded, and the word retarded got thrown around like maybe 2 or 3 times, and when the panel was over, we do this panel a little differently in another city where we have a workshop afterwards where we break into groups of like 10 or 20 where we get like you guys to talk to each other, because my biggest point is we'll all be gone on Monday. So we can't be 200 people's new best friend or big brother or, coming out buddy or whatever. But if you meet other people in your local area, those are friends you make. So we did this thing where we broke up and a note was passed from one person to another, and it eventually got to the table of panelists, and it said, thank you so much for doing this panel. It means the world to me that you spoke on this subject. My partner and I have been together, blah, 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 20 years, and we've always felt at home. I do strongly feel the need to tell you that I also suffer from, brain injury, and the word retarded hurts me because I think you're using a word that probably has been used to hurt many other people in a way that doesn't mean much to you. And like, everyone on the panel felt like crap. And so we talked about it afterwards, and we're like, this is a really good point. And not only did this person tell us, they started off by going, look, thank you for being here, thank you for doing this. Hey, why don't you chew on this bubblegum for a second? Like, why don't you think about this thing that maybe is not a big deal to you, but it's kind of a big deal to me. And because I grew up a skater and around skaters, and I was forever the worst "that's so gay" person, just because those are the people I hang out with, and that's the way that we talk. And since that note, I think I even still have it. Since that note, I give a lot of thought to language and how I use words, and I do think some words we can't overly taboo, but I think tossing words around in large groups of people affect people differently. So I'm glad that we all have touched on that, because it's really important. Who's got something else to say? Yeah, I can't wait.
Hi. I want to say something. I think so. I got made fun I can remember. You have a weird memory for this stuff, right? Don't you always remember you can chronicle and play back in your head every awful thing? I can remember very vividly the day in 4th grade, all the girls crammed through the lunch line and all sat at one table, so I had to sit alone, and the chaperones teachers let it happen. I remember everything, every name everybody called me. I think you always remember. It was all, and I always internalized it and was like, well, if everybody thinks this about me, it obviously must be true. I'm obviously disgusting and hideously ugly, and no one's ever gonna love me, and I should just go live in a cave somewhere with a bag over my head all the time. And it's still, and I think it's something everybody said that I'm really, really impressed by and admire so much, is everybody's ability to be so strong and wave their flag proud about who they are. I guess I'm a little different, and I have bad days and stuff like that, and I think it's okay to. And I think if you're not at a point where you're like, I feel totally confident and I'm past that, that's okay. I don't know, when I do comedy shows, I swear to God, every time someone tells a fat chick joke, I'm like, someone say fat chicks! Somebody say fat, who said fat chick?
I'm the same with gay jokes.
I have to stop myself. I'll be in the middle of a conversation, mid-syllable, and be like, I heard fat chicks! I heard someone say it! Who said it? Why did you say it?
Did you say gay? No, I said game.
Yeah.
I get hypersensitive.
Yeah. Who said that? Who said fat chick? And they're like, I don't know.
Fish sticks.
Nobody. And I'm hyper aware. And I feel like it's okay to be I'm probably always gonna think about that stuff a little bit. I'm probably always
gonna feel. And my friends will say to me, I think it affects me a lot in like dating and stuff like that. There are certain places where I feel very confident. When I'm on stage doing comedy, I don't care because I feel like everybody in that room who would judge me walking down the street. And the reality is, they're probably not judging me down the street. You know, like, people probably aren't looking at her being like, geez, she looks like she shops at Lane Bryant. I don't approve. Don't approve of her weight. Like, nobody's thinking that. But even if in my head that's what they're thinking, I feel like when I'm on stage, they don't care and it doesn't matter. Or when I'm at work doing social, you know, like, I feel like there are a lot of times when it doesn't matter. In dating, my friends will have to talk to me a lot and I'll say like, well, this guy will never look at me because I'm hideously disgusting and they're like, what are you like, who, like, this is in your head. And I think it's okay to acknowledge there are places where we have weaknesses and places where we're gonna struggle. And I think when you learn that, you say, I'm gonna have to work through this and I'm always gonna work. Like, maybe it's something I'm always gonna have to work on. Maybe I'm not ever gonna, and there are places in my life where I feel very, very strong and very, very confident. And I think it's okay to have some places where you feel less so about it. And I think you slowly get to a place where you say, what do I need to do to get help over this? Like, it's not my fault I was treated like this. These people who aren't in my life anymore, whose names I still remember from middle school, and I'm 28. And if someone, like, I will remember the name James Kwiatek forever and ever. It's a very, you remember your
Randy
middle
Canarium.
See, you never forget. Like, this person who I haven't seen in 16 years, like, and his, like, cruel words, I think, still affect you. So I think if you're not in a place where you're like, I feel so great about myself and I'm totally over it, that's okay, and it doesn't mean you're a failure. Like, I think it's okay to say, this has affected me, and maybe it always will a little bit, but life can still be really, really good, and I can still accomplish a lot, and I can get to a place where I feel happy and good about myself. And I think it's a process. So I think you have to be patient with yourself and more forgiving of yourself than your bullies were. So you're not bullying yourself at a point.
I'm so glad you said that. I have days where things that people say about me on the internet, there are days when things that people say about me on the internet destroy me. And like the only person that knows is my fiance, because like there will be a whole bottle of Moscato missing, and the computer will be very warm. And I'm like, you were on the internet drinking Moscato again, weren't you? I'm like, yeah, there was this YouTube comment, and then I went down the rabbit hole, and then, you know, all these people, the internet hates me, and I just can't let people know that it gets to me. I think that's a very big part of internet culture right now, is the ability to troll people and life ruin people just for the fun of it. Yes, yes, oh yes. My friend says, and I guess I can say the word pussy because it means cat, but my friend says that the biggest pussies always draw their swords on the internet. I've always wondered about cats with swords, but it's true. But I think it's really important that we also let people know that there are days that words still hurt us, and even the strongest of people have days where they feel weird about themselves and have to look in the mirror and go, dude, you're about to play for 3,500 people. Stop freaking out. Put your shoes on and go. Grab your gear and go.
I think that's kind of the thing. Someone said this recently, and I've got to agree with it. Like YouTube comments, if you throw a video online and you're reading through the comments, and like 8 out of 10 comments are positive, but then you scroll down to the one comment that's just the word fag, and that's like being belittled by some Dark Ages warlord who disapproves of you. It's just this one word that shows their complete hate of you, but you're sort of geared to hone in on that negativity. And it's kind of like, wait, that doesn't work with the math here. It's like 8 out of 10 people are kind of cool or like what I'm doing. And then you have this one idiot who's going by like Boner69, and this dude's saying I must be gay or take it in unnatural ways in southern states. And it's kind of like, who the hell is this guy? I mean, look, you know, you're on Facebook, and as the years get by, Facebook is like You kind of watch your old high school classmates that you may not have been fond of, and like they're having children they can't afford, and they're turning their vaginas into Irish Catholic water slides. It's kind of like,
Amen, brother.
all right, this
I will never look at a water slide.
just keep the kids funneling out.
Claire, go.
I'm sure I had a point in there somewhere. Move
I
on.
don't know that you did. I think you just wanted to say that.
Yeah, it's all about the punchline.
It's a notepad that just says, say Irish Catholic water slides. It's my mission for this panel. I thought of this genius line, gotta
It's
say.
bucket list. You crossed it off the bucket
He's
list.
leaving now. He's dropped the mic and leaving.
Chris Rock style. I think that is a criticism that we all have about, and it is something I do. We can like kind of extrapolate to be conventions. Is that you have 8 out of 10 comments, and it's the 2 comments that really get to you. Take all the friendliness you have here into the situations you have in your real life, and know that there are a bunch of people just like you. And as much as there can be bullying on the internet, it does bring us together and let you know that there are other people out there just like you, and you can talk to them. There are forums if you're like, you know, there are forums and ways to like groups and mailing lists to be involved with if you need that support, or if you have questions, or you know, there's a lot of outlets, and I don't know any of them. But
I'm sure they exist.
But yeah, I have my bad days too. Yeah, it's just important to keep on.
I definitely, and then I'll let you say something. You're the first hand to go up. I definitely want to talk about the internet for a second, because I think the thing that gives us, the neat thing about the internet is every piece of knowledge that ever existed is out there. And a child with a computer, that is to me the great divide. If you could be the poorest person in the world, and as long as you have access to the internet once a week or once a day, you can learn anything. Anything in the world is out there for you to learn. And I think it's so sad that most teenagers use it to do the same tawdry, repetitive things they do during the day to each other at school, which is to pick on each other and bully each other. The most important thing to note about internet bullying is the only way to fix it is to do what? Ignore it. And it is hard. And let me tell you a weird story that is a funny story. There was a person that claimed to have hacked the web page for a convention that I staffed. Now the funny thing is you can't call it hacking if you used to be the webmaster. It just means you locked us out of the website. But this person attacked several members of our staff and nobody cared, because most people, honestly, if I told you the name of the conchair here, I would freak out if you knew her, because she's my friend and I hug her around her neck all the time. But most people don't know the staffs of conventions. So they attacked several members of our staff, and it got no attention. And then they attacked me, because they thought I was on the board of directors, which is funny, because I wasn't. But they called me a pedophile on the internet, which is a crime to say something about someone like that if it's unwarranted.
It's actually called civil defamation.
No, I know. Oh, believe me, my lawyer put the fear of God into this person.
It's not a crime, but it's a civil offense.
No, it is a crime. Actually, it's a crime to accuse someone of a crime if there is no basis for that accusation. And I worked at the sixth largest law firm in the country, so I'm very versed on what I can sue someone for. And it actually broke state lines, so it became a criminal harassment offense too. And if I wanted to ruin this person's life, I could subpoena them to my city every week for 12 weeks, and they would have to pay their own flight, accommodations, and for the videographer that takes the deposition. So when you want to hurt somebody, you can do it legally.
Yes.
But this wasn't the point. The interesting thing about this person calling me a pedophile was I immediately sought legal counsel, and I was like, look, this is crap and this is not true and this is freaking me out. Every day that I go to the internet, it feels like every single person on the internet is going to this page. Nobody was going to that page, except for the kids that went to that con. And they all know me, and they know I'm not a pedophile. So, because at the time I was in a serious relationship, and I'm never shy of who I'm with. They're usually everywhere I am. And then the person updated it, it gets better, and they said that the reason I go to conventions is so I can hit on underage girls. And I was like, who are you talking about? Greg who? Do you know that if you type my name into Google, one of the autocompletes is gay? You, sir, have not done your homework.
When even a supercomputer realizes you're really gay.
And at the end of the day, what the legal advice I had to go with was I couldn't address the subject because by addressing it, it gave credence to what was said. And she said, look, I know you don't feel this way. She's like, every major celebrity has been accused of this. When anybody asks you, say, you have a lawyer, a very mean lawyer that's working pro bono on this, that has already spent 26 some hours in discovery, and that we're taking care of it. And it will be all...
This means you're a celebrity now.
Yeah, that's what she said to me. She goes, well, you've arrived. If they said this. I'm like, I don't want to arrive. And the bottom line is, through fear of legal action and threats and whatnot, it eventually went away. But the feeling that I got every day knowing that existed on the internet and I couldn't make it go away almost killed me. And years later, a very good friend who was a teenager was held almost hostage by a naked photo. That kids do dumb things when they have webcams, it's true. You don't need a pocket calculator to figure that out. And a friend of mine was screen capped, and someone was holding this image as the most horrific ransom on earth. And I was so grateful that that happened to my friend, and that sounds so weird, but I was the one that could say, look, you don't have a bad body. This is just a picture of you naked. They're not calling you a pedophile. They're not saying mean things, and here's the most important thing to note. The internet is like a toilet, and if you leave something long enough, this is a horribly gross analogy, I know. If you let something sit in the toilet long enough, it'll just float to the bottom. And someone will put something else in the toilet. And your toilet business is not visible.
This is the current Carnival Cruise Line's business plan.
And the great thing about that is that person made it through this event okay. That person had there were suicide attempts, and there were nights where I had to stay on the phone all night going, it's not a big deal, it'll go away. Meanwhile, I was doing internet work, finding out the person who posted the picture and trying to get the website shut down myself, like in the background. But we just recently went to dinner and had beers, because now that person's not a kid anymore, and we were over beers, and I said, hey, remember this whole thing that happened a few years back? And he goes, man, you know what? You were right. That didn't even matter. And I said, yeah. I go, and the pictures don't even exist anymore. Because for a while, I would go back and keep looking, because for a while they were replicating on other sites, and I was just like, but they're gone. And I'm a pretty crafty guy when I'm on the internet. I can find things. They're gone. They're gone. And I think luckily, because it looked like a minor, even though it wasn't, the pictures were legal, they took them down just because I guess somebody got scared. But I said, that time that you kept telling me you just wanted to drive your car, you just kept saying you wanted to drive his car into a brick wall, you just wanted to, drive his car into a brick wall, and he just kept telling me this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, then you'd never be naked for anybody ever again. I was like using the one thing that got him in trouble to try to keep him going. And I said, remember that? And he's like, dude, I feel so stupid for that whole time period. And I'm like, no, the problem with something existing about you on the internet is there's this weird thing that you can't make it go away for any reason. And you learn a really important lesson about a thick skin there. Like, you learn that you might have to tolerate someone calling you the most horrific name or doing something horrible. But when you tell the story later, you're not the bad guy. Like, you're the good guy at the end of the story. So, yeah.
You know what I think is interesting about the internet now is people used to, this sort of internet, not internet, but like large scale sort of criticizing of people used to happen to like celebrities, right? They'd be like, well, you're a movie star, you put yourself out there to be photographed, and we're gonna criticize your body, and we're gonna criticize your sexuality and X, Y, Z. But now with the internet, there's sort of this weird bully argument that everybody's a public figure, so everybody willingly subjects themselves to this and is almost, it's like we almost deserve it, is what people have sort of, we've decided as a society. Yeah, like, well, you have stuff on the internet, you just, like, you're opening yourself up for criticism. Like, why is the default criticism? Like, why is the default, like, well, because you have a Facebook page, you have to, you're automatically gonna, this is just gonna happen to you, and there's nothing you can do about it. I feel like it makes us all, like, that's what I think is so sad, what Greg was saying, is this can be such an amazing tool. And what it's turned into is a way for us all to be held hostage by douchebags. That's really what, like, by douchebags who criticize people they don't know for no reason. Like, you have a right to privacy. You have a right to not be harassed all the time. And I think we forget that because we're all under the impression, well, just because I have some sort of online presence, be it a social media page or whatever, I just have to deal with it. And I think we all, as a society, sort of have to, and I think it's a really hard thing to change, but I think we have to get to a point where, like, this is not what this means. Like, this does not mean if you were a teenager with a Facebook profile, people should bully you so much you jump in front of a train. Like, it's not, I think we collectively have to come to a place where this is not just something we have to accept, but that's something we can all decide together we're not going to accept. And I think we have that power that we haven't tapped into.
I forgot. You had said something. You wanted to say something. I want you to be able to talk. Sorry. No, my bad. You're not your bad.
Playing off what you guys said about the bullying happening in our community, I honestly feel like, or my opinion is, a lot of the times when people are bullied coming up, they tend to end up doing it too. Once to actually get the attention, because they never had the attention, and you realize, okay, well, if I bully somebody, then I won't be bullied. And I'm sure. It's very sad that that's
Yeah, no, it's very self-perpetuating.
That's actually a common side effect of kids that are bullied, is they end up bullying other. It's like a different type of water slide.
Very different.
It goes downhill because one kid feels that they're put upon and can't do anything.
Right.
So when they find a kid that is weaker or maybe in a weirder position, well, they tease me for this, but you're this, and it happens. You're right. It happens a lot, and there is definitely a trickle-down effect. Totally.
I think that's a great point. That's also a good. I think that talks about the power of stopping it. That because bullying begets more bullying, that if we can find a way to stop it, that cycle of self-perpetuation sort of stops at a point. So I think that's a great point.
Honestly, one of the reasons I do these panels is I just used to justify it by being the guy that said, well, I bully bullies. I was like, well, this is something that's built into me, and I have this horrible temper as a result of it and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, it's fine because I bully bullies. No, at some point we have to become a society where you can just go, hey, you know what, that's wrong. There shouldn't have to be a strong arm at some point. And so, I do these panels as much to hear myself say some things out loud and feedback from people as anyone else, because it is a natural side effect. It's just like that whole sexual abuser thing. They say, most sexual abusers were sexually abused themselves. This is very much true in bullying, and the studying I've done on bullying. A lot of kids that were bullied grow up to be like tyranny or tyrannical adults. That sounds like T-Rex. But very, very bullying and domineering adults for that reason.
They're known as alpha males.
Yeah, the thing that's very. The thing that's very, this is a very important point, and this is again where the weird disconnect happens between me and even people my age who are nerds and stuff. I constantly defend bronies, furries, Homestuck cosplayers, and other groups that are seen as like new, people called Naruto fans. Something bad. But again, but I've been around long enough that there's just always a new group that's being chastised, and it's like, if people are passionate, even in cosplay, if somebody's not doing a great cosplay, there's still heart in it, and it still hurts that person. And even bad fanfic, which I admit can sometimes be very, very funny. Guess what?
Especially if you read it aloud.
But guess what? Your dumb comment about fanfic, not as much heart as them writing that fanfic. And 50 Shades of Grey was a fanfic. So.
And it's terrible, and it's still very successful.
But the point being is that you're doing something passionately, you shouldn't feel trod upon, and try not to like chastise other people in their costumes or being a group of nerds that maybe you don't see as being equal to you. And that's something that's very important to be aware of, especially with bronies, because there's a misconception that bronies is the first time that males of a certain age can embrace something that's clearly feminine. And it's cool, it's beyond cool. It's great that they have this shared thing, and it's really amazing. But then it's all trod upon as like a point of funniness, but I think it's really awesome. So, but it represents something that, being transgendered, I'm like, you should be able to wear a dress. Go ahead.
Kanye West just did it.
And RuPaul does it better than most women.
Yeah!
I think the fact that I ran into a Marine in a brony shirt in a Texas airport last year, I think that settles the argument. We have Marine bronies now. These are men who have their confirmed kills tattooed on their hips as cutie marks. Between the Marine bronies and the Special Forces Pegasisters that are coming up, we can end the war on terror.
I definitely wanted, you said something about Homestuck cosplayers. I have a panel, unfortunately I'm not doing it this weekend, but I started doing this panel called Why Your Fandom Sucks, which the panel title is misleading because it's about fandoms that have gone off the rails and things they've done to bring heat upon themselves. One of the most important things to me about that panel is I try to offer advice to Homestuck fans. Because as a member of the Tumblr community, even though I don't talk about that very loudly, it's sad for me to watch Homestuck fans constantly fall victim to troll bait. And I tell Homestuck fans, I'm like, guys, stop taking the bait. Enjoy Homestuck. Have fun with each other. Create your own Homestuck community. Stop playing the martyr. And then just enjoy the con. And if somebody doesn't like Homestuck, they're lost. You know what you like about it. Have fun. But like, I feel the same way. Like, I think it's important to defend parts of our community, and that's one of the things. I finally gave up on my outline because we're doing fine without it. Normally this can be really disheveled. But it's something that I talk about to different fandoms that get picked on. Ball-jointed doll fans, yaoi fans, furries, Homestuck fans. We've even seen, there was even a case of bullying at a convention based on the character the person was cosplaying. This young lady was dressed as Alice from Black Butler, and they taunted her and followed her and took her money and messed with her, and so like, well luckily they were dumb enough to brag about it on the internet, and nobody's anonymous on the internet. And so
did they actually got busted?
They're banned for life from not only the convention they did it at, but all of the surrounding conventions. Which is a really important thing. Conventions do go out of their way to try to make conventions a safe place for everybody. I go to a convention in Lansing, Michigan called ShutoCon, and they've just designated their entire con space as a safe space. meaning they have a zero tolerance for any kind of harassment at all. It's sad that we have to do that, but I'm glad they're willing to stand up and go, look, we're not going to put up with this at all. So I heard somebody had something over here. Yeah.
Questions.
Oh, definitely. We need one of those Oprah microphones we can pass around the room, but yeah.
Use that one. Use that one. But it's wired.
It's wired. It's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to form a line? Do you want to?
Yeah, definitely. Don't get a line going. We can Phil Donahue this.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Early line, do you have questions for us and we'll answer them, or you want to stay stuff?
Okay, I just kind of want to add to what you were saying earlier about the culture of how, if you're on Facebook, anything you put out there, you deserve to be criticized. I'd just like to say, when I was in high school, I was so conservative about what I put out into the world. I did not have at that point, MySpace. I did not have a Zanga like everybody else had.
You don't even know what that is.
It's like LiveJournal, yeah. So, I barely had an email. I didn't give anything out to teachers. I didn't give anything out to acquaintances. I think maybe Christine, who's my best friend sitting right there, she was the only one, and one of their childhood friends who had my IM address. Now, one day in high school, I made the mistake of going up on stage with a friend to sing a song at a Pacific Asian ceremony, where it was supposed to be a ceremony about racial indifference. She had stage fright and asked me to come up with her, so I did. This person got mad, waited all day through school. At night, they went home on their computer, made a fake email, dug until they found my IM address, and harassed the crap out of me. There are so many steps people will take to get at you. It is not about putting yourself out there. It's not about, oh, you have Facebook, so whatever you put out there, you deserve it. People will find you, and it's not okay. It's not. And that perception in our culture needs to change. The victim is not the person who should be ashamed of what they are doing.
Absolutely.
It is the person who is bullying, thinking they are anonymous and they can get away with it. That's the only reason they do it. Mm-hmm. Those people should be ashamed, and that perception needs to change. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, let me tell you about my story. It's about me and Pokemon. Basically, I was bullied because I was wearing Pikachu book bag in middle school, while other middle schools were watching more adult television. As an assault, I was called Pikachu the same way I was called a fag. And they were persistent. About half the school was calling me names. I tried reporting to the school administration, and they didn't do anything. And as a matter of fact, I was considered an annoyance. And I tried to move to schools, and for some reason they followed me. Moved to a high school. That person followed me. I was suspended once because they didn't want to help me. They actually suspended me twice because they basically told me I should suffer in silence. The school administration at the time was lazy, and the only thing that actually helped me was the fact that they moved me to a non-public school where I did made a few social connections, but no friends because I couldn't trust anyone anymore. I did eventually went to college, and I'm recently graduated at the University of Maryland in politics and government. Let me tell you something about the real issue about it gets better. I mean, seriously, to some children, they're empty words. They're empty words because they've been bullied for years. and they have to for them, they just tell the world just get better. They basically tell them just endure it even more. And the real thing is that even if they do escape from high school, they may not get the support they need. They may have abandoned their education, they may have suffered from suicidal thoughts, major depression. Seriously, if you really want things to get better, why can't the US government make things better? Why we haven't passed a federal law preventing and suppressing peer abuse? Make it a policy for every school that receives federal funds to enforce their laws and their policies, and allow police and the court services to prosecute peer abusers, persistent school bullies through existing juvenile laws. If you really want to make things better, support the victims and prosecute the school bullies, and prosecute the same way we deal with criminals on the streets.
Definitely. Thank you. Hey, thank you. I think you brought up something really important, so I can't say much about this, and I definitely want to keep everybody moving along so we can get everybody a chance to talk. I have news for you. There may or may not be a nonprofit organization in the works right now that is a legal strong arm for kids that are being bullied to put the screws to high schools and junior high schools that are doing nothing. So there may or may not, and I may or may not know people involved, but that there are people that take that same attitude that it should be criminal and we should be able to do something about it. So thank you. Yeah.
That's great. Hi.
Hi. Mine is part question, part story. As you can probably tell from the accent, I am not from America. I'm actually from England. And over there is at the moment a train of thought that bullying should be accepted and that it is a part of growing up, that you should learn to overcome the bullies. I'm one of the lucky ones. I never was truly bullied badly, but my little sister was, and it got really bad. But I'm just wondering what people think of the idea of, because it's not okay, I'm sorry, no matter how many people say it is not okay to watch my sister going through things like that.
Yeah.
No. I had to ask, what part of England?
Kent.
Awesome. I love your accent, by the way.
Thank you.
I live in a state, unfortunately, that is the concept. I live in Texas. Texas has given many horrible things to this world, but we have given some awesome food too. I'm not going to even get into politics, but I live in a state where school regulation and policymakers' attitudes are that you should have to learn how to man up, which I think is a sexist attitude. What about girls? Do we have to man up too?
Man up is called...
Girls? What is this we're talking about?
Man up is called putting up with it.
But here's my problem with that theory, especially in the States, and I can't speak of the laws in England, but in the United States, children are forced by law to go to school.
Same.
Yeah. So how can you tell me that a place where I'm forced to be against my will, now I also have to fight to survive? That's unacceptable. And that's what a lot of us are trying to say out loud publicly to these attitudes.
Well, and kids too, a lot of the bullying that I always would think, it's so the things that happen to kids in school, if that were happening in an office environment, if there are consequences, like it doesn't make sense that there's less standards for protection of children than there are for adults in the case of bullying. Because it's not, we call it bullying, it's harassment. That's what we call it for adults, and it has legal consequences. Bullying it's not a legal term. Let's call it spade a spade.
Assault, yeah.
It's harassment, and we don't tolerate it for adults, and we do for kids. So no, you should no, it's not, I get really upset and I hate that at it. I think you're a child and you're forced to go somewhere and we're not gonna protect you at all, so good luck.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and I think attitudes are slowly starting to change because we're seeing the consequences, but I hope things continue in the way that we're not we understand how serious it is, and we're gonna call it what it is and stop it.
Yeah, I love that you said that because an assault, whether you're a child or an adult, is still an assault. The thing in the UK, the law in the UK that I think is so interesting is the ASBO, the Antisocial Behavior Order, because you can give that to a group of kids that are exerting signs of antisocial behavior and bullying and harassment, and that's a law we don't have in the States.
It's now seen as a badge of honor, though.
Yeah, we have something similar called a civil injunction in the U.S.
I'm really glad you brought that up. Thank you. That's a great thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you for looking out for your sisters.
Yeah.
We're getting cut short. I mean, we're like at our final 15 minutes, so we're gonna ask people to like, I hate that, but we'll try to move and do as much as we can.
I just want to share something that happened during high school that might be thought-provoking, maybe not, I hope it is. There was this guy at school. He was very mean. He liked to poke fun. He liked to tease. He did it to me a lot, but more so to like other people. He didn't make kids feel good and made a lot of people cry, really. And every time it happened, I always looked around and was hoping that a teacher would come and make it stop. I was like a bystander, and I didn't know what to do. And ultimately, I didn't really do anything because I didn't really know how to deal with this. I didn't want it to happen, but as a bystander, I didn't know how to handle it, so I just kind of walked away. So maybe how should kids do, what should bystanders do when they see this? But also, later on though, this kid messed around with some of the basketball players at school. And the basketball players retaliated very fiercely. They beat him up quite badly at the back of the gym, and I saw it. And you know what I was thinking? I was thinking he deserved it, because he was a very mean person, this guy, and he just decided to pick on someone who was able to fight back this time. And I was thinking he deserved it, but reflecting on that now, the reason I believed he deserved it was because I had reasons and I didn't like him very much. But this guy, although he's a mean person, he has friends that loves him, he has family that loves him, and in their eyes, they don't believe he deserves it. So, I mean, it's easy to try to be sympathetic to people who seem to be helpless. But when you see someone you don't like, someone you might even hate, someone who's done something terrible to you, when that's happening to them, it's easy to think that they deserve it, even though when they are in just as need of a defense against bullying as their own victims. Even, do you guys have any thoughts about that?
Thank you for saying that. I think it's important to note that every single person is someone's brother or child or lover or something, and that's a very important point. It is any kind of assault or any kind of mistreatment affects other people as well, not just the person that it's happening to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Throughout my life, I've been bullied, and unfortunately, the adults around me were not conducting themselves well at all. Long story short, my mom married my father, who was abusive. She divorced him, and then my mom married my stepfather, and he was worse, an alcoholic. He called me retarded. He made fun of my brother and my sister. He called my sister fat, and I was very distrustworthy. I was very angry. And then throughout high school, I met someone who was transgendered, and, I fell in love with him. And, it was really hard because, my mom would call me a fag hag, a homo honey. She would make fun of him right where he was, like, over my house. And it sucked. Eventually I got myself out of that situation, but, the public still, I can't, I hold hands with him, and people are shouting out, lesbians, fags. I had a soda can thrown at me, and, and it's hard because, but he's a really great person, and he tries to make everything funny, a joke. People would come up to him, oh, you're so gay, and he's like, well, at least I'm getting some, what about you? And, I had girls from work who love me, like, so, do you like do you think him wearing makeup is sexy or something?
oh, I don't know, maybe I have a big heart or something, maybe I'm gender blind, maybe I don't really give a shit. And, you know, they're asking me like, oh, do you use a struggle? And I'm just like, what the hell have you been reading? Seriously.
Why are we having this conversation in public? Yeah.
I don't know. There's just so curious. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, you know, thank you guys for being
But
here.
here's the awesome thing, in this weird, awful, and awesome world, you two found each other and found love, and regardless of how stupid other people are, you have each other at the end of the day, and thank you for getting yourself out of a situation that was, you know, you said I got out of that situation.
Yeah, I had no choice. I mean, I was like...
Yeah. And at the end of the day, you all have each other. I love your pajamas.
Thank
They
you.
look so comfortable.
First I want to say, I love all of you. You're awesome.
We love you!
Second, okay. How do I say this? I have been made fun of for liking anime and Homestuck, and it was really hard for me to like find friends. When I was in like middle school, like at the end of middle school and at the beginning of high school, it was around that time, but I heard someone in the lunchroom, and this is a new start for me. There's really no friends of mine in my lunch period, and I like making friends, and it's like, I just want somebody to talk to. And I hear someone say, what was it? I think it was Naruto, like behind me, and I turn around and I'm like, oh my god, you like Naruto? I love Naruto! And they look at me like I have 3 heads. Like, we were saying how stupid Naruto fans were. I'm like, well, actually, my grades are pretty good, but... So, after that, I'm thinking, do a lot of people think this? Because this is the first time this has happened to me. Like, a lot of the time, I'm not really... I'm a pretty social person. I like making new friends. I like talking to people. It was hard for me that day because I realized, oh my god, people actually think this way. Because before that, I'd only seen TV and movies. And then after that, they kind of paid special attention to me, I guess, after that. Because I kind of got smart with them after that, saying, oh, I don't know how your grades are, but mine's pretty good. I'm not really stupid. I'm a very high-functioning person. Thank you very much. I think after that I made friends, but I found out they were in my class. They found out I was in their class, and they started paying special attention to me. Then they found out that I have really poor eyesight, and I don't really understand how they could see this as an insult, but like, my eyesight was terrible, and I didn't have money to buy new glasses, so I was stuck with the glasses that I had for like 3 years prior. And every time the teacher would call on me and tell me to read something on the board, I would have to squint really hard and like look like closer to the board, or I would have to say, I'm sorry, I can't see it. They would always laugh, like not having okay eyesight. I mean, that wasn't my choice. I didn't choose to squint at the board. If I had the choice, I would have perfect eyesight.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I think that's really, a common theme people keep saying is adults not stopping it, or adults being there and not doing anything about it. So I think now as a lot of us, if we are adults or becoming adults, we can really see that role we need to fill. Like when we see it, we have a very, very powerful opportunity to stop somebody else from going through what we went through. And I think we need to take that very seriously. So thanks again.
And the coolest thing is, even if there's not a single person that likes anime at your school, look at where you are.
I know.
You get to come do this once or twice a year and surround yourself with all those.
Thank you.
We've gotten the 5-minute mark, and we're probably at 4 now, so I want to keep things moving, and I'm working on something in my brain for the people that still haven't talked. We won't be able to keep this room, but
let's keep moving.
I've got a question about a word. In the description of one of the cross-play descriptions in the booklet, it says in the last line of it, "We will make you trap-worthy." One of my good friends is a trans woman, and she said that that word is very offensive because it contributes to this harmful myth that trans women transition, not because of who they are, but because they want to deceive straight men, and this contributes to an atmosphere where it's seen as okay to insult or to commit violence against them. I was really shocked by that, but then yesterday I took a photo of a cosplayer. I mistook her for somebody I'd photographed the day before. Different wigs, different makeup, but same like height. And so I said, "Was this you that I photographed yesterday?" Showed her the picture, and she says, "Oh no, there's a few of us traps around here." And I said, "Did you really just use that word about yourself?" And she says, "Well, you know, people."
Yeah.
So I wanted
I
you
know,
to.
and
And she said, "You just have to have
this is a big
community."
I'll-
Please address that.
I'll keep this really short. This is a huge thing with me because there's a use within the comedy world. I do stand-up comedy, and there's a debate about the word tranny and the usage of it. And there's a wide dearth of history that I could go over about it and what it is and everything else. But more importantly, within our own community, the word trap is thrown around, mostly by 4chan people. And the idea that somebody would go through thousands of dollars of hormones and thousands of dollars of surgery just to get a penis back close to them is just ridiculous.
Really, you can just pay $20 in most cities.
Yeah. So it's a very bad word, but yes, that's very important.
Thank you. So I wanted to let everybody know, and please spread it.
Yeah,
People who
just-
say it's a trap, not funny
yeah.
when it's used to degrade trans women.
But thank you for
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey, I know this guy.
Hi. My name is Justin.
Hi, Justin.
I'll admit, I was never bullied in school. I was never. Even now. I have a rough time socializing, I'll admit. See this? This is a cell phone. I barely use it. This is my first one, believe it or not. I'm 19, this is the first one I ever had in my life. I have rough in socializing, actually. I spent most of my life, most of my teenagers actually, locked in my room on the internet. I have a rough time with that. I want to make friends, but I'm in South Florida actually nowadays. And I have a rough time socializing, making friends. It's difficult because there are very few kids in my school. And it's a great school, but very few kids have the same interests as I do and have a rough time like understanding and getting along with them. It's difficult.
I'm glad you brought this up because here's something interesting. I know to a lot of people it looks like I meet so many people that I would never remember anybody. I see you all the time, and I always remember you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're in a place where you can make so many friends, and like specifically, if I don't make any other point, this entire panel, this is the most important thing for me to say because we do talk about bullying, we do talk about suicide, and I think it's really important for somebody to say, look, I have a hard time making friends. You guys out there that don't have a hard time making friends, get to work. There are people out there that really would love to have that one friend that can call them and go, hey, are you doing okay this week? Hey, what's going on in your life? If you have no problem socializing, make friends with other people because there's somebody that would desperately kill to just have that one person that's like, hey, you doing okay? Oh, you just want to yell? Just yell. Oh, hang on, let me go get a beer. Just yell. It's okay.
I have a rough time communicating with other people because this is a phenomenon in any convention. I know I have Asperger's syndrome. I'm a form of autism.
Yeah. It's a very common thing in this community too. It's not, yeah.
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for everybody.
I think we're out, right? Okay, so we're out of time. Here's the deal. I have a few minutes. I don't have much free time, but if those of you guys that didn't get to talk, if you want to meet me on the hall here, we could talk for a second. I'm not of the mind to turn my back on anybody that wants to talk or share something with me. So like, we can't cause a traffic jam, but thank you guys so much for being here. And please thank these guys for being here with me. It's
such a big deal to have other people up here doing this. This was so easy. I just turned off my iPad. Please take care of each other, and we love you guys. Thanks so much for being here.
In the words of Keanu Reeves, be excellent to each other. That's philosophy there.
Feel free to talk to any of us.
I do get
We have no problem talking to you at any point.
Hey.
You see us out in the hall.
Yeah.
We're always willing to listen. Thank you.
Thanks for